This is what the kids call a tier list. And today I'm going to be ranking all of the drivers in the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500 in special categories of how I think each driver is going to do in the race. You can play along at home while you watch this video. There should be a link to this list I created for the 107th Indy 500, either in the description or the comment section, or both. Now, to show off how this tier list works, I've actually created a special and fairly serious category to begin. We'll take a driver's face and stick him in whatever category he goes in. And the first driver I'm going to place is Stefan Wilson in the Get Well Soon category because, as I'm sure most of you are aware, Stefan Wilson injured his spine in a really devastating crash on the Monday practice session. He's actually going in to surgery today, so all of our thoughts and prayers are with Stefan Wilson. Certainly, Steph has been one of the drivers who's been open and supportive of this channel from a very early stage. He was one of the, I guess, early adopters to showing off that YouTube truly is a platform that means something for auto racing coverage. So we're definitely thinking of Stefan, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery and certainly a good and clean surgery today. Now, the fun part is going to be ranking the other 33 drivers in the field into specific categories. And those categories are Fuel Save and Pray. These are the drivers who are not expected to win and are going to be hoping for a miracle to do so. We have Too Much Turbulence, Can't Pass. These are going to be the mid-pack drivers that I'm expecting. Not necessarily that they're bad drivers or something, or their cars are bad. Simply that once you get kind of stuck in the mid-pack in the Indy 500, it's very hard to move forward. Speaking of which, we had a top 10 car today. Now, the rules of this tier list I'm going to keep fairly strict. Once I put a driver in a category, I will not remove that driver from said category. And the top two tiers are only for 10 drivers. So in the top 10 car, we put 7 drivers because the top tier, I guess we could say S tier category, is the milk taste good, and it's also good for you category, which is reserved for only 3 drivers. So without any further ado, let's start ranking these drivers into the Indy 500 tier list. So we'll start, because why not? Let's just piss off everyone right off the bat. Agustin Canapino. Now, he's a rookie. He's looked pretty good in practice, but typically rookies at the Indy 500 are in for a rude awakening. And that's not necessarily saying that Augustin's going to have a bad race, but I do think he's going to find it very difficult to, outshine the top tier drivers. And so I think for Augustin in his first Indy 500, I'm going to put him in the Fuel Save and Pray category because this race is more difficult than probably any other one he's been in his life, and certainly the longest race that he's going to do a solo drive in. I know he did some endurance sports car racing with Juncos Racing, but this is certainly a much, much different sort of thing. Let's go to the back of the field, or at least the back of our field, and Will Power, 2018 winner. Now, I don't know where to put him. I don't think the Penske cars are quite good enough for the milk taste good tier. And I with Will, yes, he was the fastest Penske car in qualifying. He was also the fastest Penske car last year in the race, or at least in qualifying, and in the race wasn't too good. His race car wasn't as good as his qualifying car. So I'm going to put Will, this is maybe a little controversial, in the Too Much Turbulence Can't Pass tier. Let's move on. Let's grab a different one. Oh God, who are we going to go with? Let's go with Ed Carpenter. Now, he could be a top 10 contender, I think. But I get the feeling that the Ed Carpenter cars are, it's kind of like 2020, where Ed and Connor weren't quite as good, and Renus is really good. So I'm also going to put him in the Too Much Turbulence Can't Pass tier. Let's grab Elio Castroneves, because this is an interesting one. He's starting in the middle of the pack, but he was a top 10 driver last year, starting further back. Elio is a 4-time winner. He knows how to get the job done. Is he a top 10 driver this year? I think that's really the question. Is he going to be in too much turbulence, or is he going to be in the top 10? What do you guys think? This is tough. I think this year I'm going to put him in high too much turbulence can't pass. I think I'm willing to commit to that right now. Let's go with Scott Dixon. We know Scott Dixon generally is cursed at the Indy 500. He has been since he won in 2008. So with that being said, he's had some struggles over the past year of winning the race, and in fact has not had good finishes. In fact, if we're being objective about it, he probably should be in too much turbulence can't pass based on his bad luck. But I'm going to give him, we had a top 10 car today, because I think Scott Dixon is definitely, obviously he's good. He's one of the best drivers of all time. But I also don't put him in that elite milk tastes good category. I think he's a top 10 car. So let's find another driver that could be some fun. Let's go with Jack Harvey. Now, Jack Harvey was a great story in qualifying, but let's be honest with ourselves. The Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cars are way off, and they still looked way off in practice. So I'm going to say fuel save and pray, unfortunately, for Jack Harvey. You know, the Rahal cars certainly moved up in last year's 500 in terms of the finishing positions. They were never really in contention. So with the Rahal cars, it's just going to be a long day. That's just going to be how it is. Let's grab TK. Who's cheering for TK? Tony Kanaan. So, I don't know. This is interesting because I think a lot of people are going to want to put him up in this tier. And I don't even blame you if you do. I think this tier, is he a top 10 car? Is TK a top 10 car? Or is he in too much turbulence? He's starting on the third row of the grid. He started on the second row last year and finished third. I can't count him out. In fact, I'm even going to put him ahead of Dixon in the top 10. I'm going to put him ahead of Dixon in the top 10. I'm doing it. Callum Ilott. Heroic drive in qualifying. Second Indy 500. He says he learned from last year when he crashed in turn 2. I don't know if I'm willing to put him in too much turbulence can't pass, though. I think I'm going to put him in high fuel save and pray for Callum Ilott. But he has improved. And that's also why I put Augustine down here too, is that Augustine has been impressive in that he has never been in an open wheel car before. But like when you look at the finishing record, typically he moves up the field from attrition. Callum generally moves up the field through passing. But I just don't feel confident putting him in too much turbulence yet. So I'm going to put him in fuel save and pray. I'm sorry, Callum. I'm sure I'm going to get some crap. I'm going to get a lot of crap from a lot of people for this, by the way. Let's grab Kyle Kirkwood, because I think Kirkwood is a very, very interesting prospect here. Captain Kirk has been really, really fast. He's been the fastest Andretti driver. I don't know if I feel confident in the Andretti cars, though, this month. Do I feel confident for a top 10 for Captain Kirk? Yeah. You know what? We're going to put him in top 10. Captain Kirk in the top 10. Now, I only have 4 slots left in the top 10, so I need to be very careful about being too liberal about that, because there are a lot of drivers who I think could finish in the top 10 of this thing. Let's grab Benjamin Peterson. This is an interesting one because the AJ Foyt cars have really been good this year. But he's a rookie, and rookies are always in for a bit of a beatdown in the Indy 500. It's very, very rare that a rookie can win the Indianapolis 500. The last time it happened was a fuel mileage race with Alexander Rossi. Now, am I going to put him in fuel save and pray for that? No, I think the car's good enough for Benjamin Peterson to go in too much turbulence can't pass. But I guess we'll have to see how the race plays out. But generally speaking, I don't trust rookies at the Indy 500. There's just too much to learn. Let's go with little Dave. He's starting deep in the field. He's a great oval racer. There's a very strong possibility he ends up in the top 10. But I think that he's going to get kind of stuck. Too much turbulence can't pass, my opinion. Christian Lundgaard, unfortunately, he did have a good race last year, relatively speaking, coming from the last row. He's in row 10 this year, but I'm thinking fuel save and pray for Christian Lundgaard. Pato O'Ward. I think a lot of people are going to have him up here, and I think that's correct in some respects. He finished second in the race last year. He's improved on his positioning every single year he's been at the Indianapolis 500. But I just don't think his car is quite as good as some of the others. So I'm going to put him in the top 10. Sorry, Pato Nation. But I don't think Pato's going to win the 500 this year. I could be completely wrong on that, by the way. And just everything I said is going to be clipped and going to be put in some video where, oh, David Land's an idiot. But that's fine. Let's go to Scotty Mack. Scotty Mack's a really interesting one because I really think this car could be a top 10 car. I think Scotty Mack definitely is the kind of driver who can get in that car in the top 10. But he hasn't quite had that finish yet at the Indy 500. And therefore, I'm going to put him high in the too much turbulence category. And in fact, I'm going to put him ahead of Will Power because I think Scott might race better than Will. But we'll see. We'll see on that one. Let's go with RC Anderson. It's an interesting one. They've overperformed or outperformed every expectation that most of us have had. But I think it's fuel save and pray for RC. That's not, there's no offense, but just it's a first-time team. It's a first-time driver in the 500. The expectations need to be low, and hopefully they exceed them. Connor. He's led 59 laps in the last couple of years at the Indy 500. Is he a top 10 car this year? I would say no. Sorry, Connor. Now, he's going to prove me wrong on that. In fact, every one of these drivers is going to prove me wrong and show me this clip from this thing. I guarantee you. But I think he's going to be in the too much turbulence can't pass tier this year. Stingray Robb. I would also put him in fuel save and pray. He's another rookie. Starting on the back row. Yeah, I think finishing for pretty much any of the rookies is going to be a win this year. There's no doubt about it. Devlin, I would also say, is fuel save and pray. The Andretti cars aren't quite as good this year as they have been in years past. And Devlin has not shown yet that he's going to run at the absolute front of the pack on pace. So Andretti cars have done this before at the Indianapolis 500 where they fuel saved and prayed and won the race. So Devlin goes into that category. And I would also say Marco Andretti goes into that category. He was actually leading the race at one point late in last year's 500 on a fuel save strategy, though I don't think he was exactly going to win the race on that strategy. All right, let's have some fun. I'm just going to throw Felix Rosenqvist right now. Milk tastes good. And it's also good for you tier because I think Fief has the car. He figured out how to win the race last year. He's on the front row. Outside of the front row wins the race more often than not. I think it's second or third in terms of all-time wins. I think most of the front row always wins the race. So Felix has a lot of good things going for him. He's got one of the best liveries in the field. So from a bias standpoint, that would be a cool diecast to get. But I think Felix is a race-winning contender. I'll just put it that way. Catherine Legg, this is a tough one because she's driving a Rahal car. She crashed her car. Hasn't looked that great in traffic. She was very good in qualifying, the best Rahal car by far. But I think she's in fuel save and pray for sure because if you look at Colton Herta last year, that's a tall order when you crash a car, even if it's not a backup car per se. That's a tall order. So fuel save and pray for Catherine Legg. Let's go Romain Grosjean, the Phoenix. He crashed last year. He's knocking on the door. Do I put him in the top 10? Nah, I can't. Not this month. I just don't think he's quite as strong as he was last year or even as strong as he was in Texas. Joseph Newgarden. I'm just going to put him at the top of... We had a top 10 car today. I'm not prepared to put him in the top 3, but I think Joseph Newgarden has got a really good shot of winning the 500. Definitely the strongest Penske car in traffic, fast at the test. I think Joseph's got a really good shot. By the way, means I get 2 more picks for the top 10, and there's a lot of strong drivers left in that tier. So for that, to that point, let's put Alex Palou, the pole sitter, and make milk taste good and is also good for you tier, because he has had the best car the last 2 years, has been an extremely strong driver. I think Alex Palou is a very, very good pick to win the Indianapolis 500 this year. And continuing on from that, the top 10s, or the front row, I'm not actually going to put Renus up here because I'm not just going to pick the entire front row in milk is good for you and tastes good. But I think Renus is a very, very strong car this year. Very, very strong driver. If he gets to the end of the race, he's going to have a top 10 car. We're going to find out exactly where he is, but I think he's a top 10 car. Chungus, Colton Herta. I think he's in too much turbulence this year. I think most of the Andretti cars are here outside of Captain Kirk. I'll put him behind Will Power. I think he's going to shake out around there. We're getting down to it. We got a lot of Indy 500 winners. Let's go. So I've got what? One space left here, one space left here, and we've got a lot of big names, huh? Ooh. This is exciting. What's going to happen? Who am I going to pick? Let's go with Graham. I think there's a very real possibility he ends up in the top 10. Brian Reinbold car has done it before. Sage Karam coming from the back row. It's a car that finished 4th in 2012, so we know it's a good car. But I think he's in too much turbulence, can't pass. I think he's going to get up there. I don't think he's going to get all the way up there. Put it that way. Simone Pagenaud. Again, coming pretty deep in the field. I just don't think he's going to get all the way up there. Put him between Connor and Graham. Got 5 drivers left. We got 1 space and milk tastes good. We got 1 space and we had a top 10 car today. And there are some strong drivers left here, including the most recent Indianapolis 500. Oh boy. I'm gonna put Sato in too much turbulence, can't pass. That's a tough one because he has won every year he's qualified in the Fast 9, and every 3 years he's won the race. So I think a lot of people would put Sato up here. I think even more people would put Sato here. I don't trust him right now. I don't know why. Just got a feeling. So I'm going to put him in high, too much turbulence. Can't pass. 4 drivers to go. I think it would be very unwise to bet against Santino Ferrucci at this point to have a top 10. So is he going to fill out the top 10? Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to bet against him. I'm going to put Santino in too much turbulence. That's probably a huge mistake, but he's in too much turbulence. 3 drivers to go, all former winners. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi. Who am I going to pick? Marcus Ericsson. Top 10 car. He'll be my last top 10 pick. At least we had a top 10 car today. I don't think he'll quite get there. It's so difficult to win the 500 2 years in a row. But you cannot deny that he's clearly got the confidence. He's figured out how to be a great IndyCar driver. He's a top 10 car. 2 drivers to go. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Alexander Rossi. These are 2 drivers, 2 cars that I have pointed out that are extremely strong this year. And clearly, one of them is going to get put in milk tastes good. The other one's going to get put in too much turbulence. Drum roll, please. Ryan Hunter-Reay, I'm going to put in too much turbulence. And that means I think Alexander Rossi is the other one that I would put in the milk tastes good category. He's the only former winner I've put there. His car looks very strong. I think he's motivated to win the Indianapolis 500 again. And so this is my tier list. This is my Indy 500 tier list. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments section below, and be sure to send me your tier lists on Twitter or other social media platforms. I'll share them. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.